Tribute to our mom and dad, John and Irene Kohut. When friends and family kept asking about a celebration of life for mom and dad, it was difficult to imagine how to do this without all the people that loved them so much to be there to celebrate with us. With some ideas and encouragement, my brothers, Daryl and Dean, as well as friends, family, and of course Joel Fabric, who helped us to put this tribute together. You will see pictures, hear from many who love them, and you will even hear words directly from their own story. I truly hope you enjoy this. I will be honest, this has been the hardest thing that Daryl, Dean, and I have had to do. First we bury our brother John, now mom and dad. I keep wondering why. Then I remind myself I must keep my faith, believe that God needs our special angels to share the love around the world. When Mom passed away on August 30th, 2019, we were unable to have a community celebration of Mom's life, as Dad took very sick the following day. We believe he was in shock and loss, and that had a lot to do with it. And then unfortunately, within a couple of days of that, Dad was advised he had cancer and needed immediate treatment. We were so blessed with such kind, giving, hardworking, and loving parents. When Junior passed away, Mom and Dad were never the same. In fact, none of us were the same. When you spend your life growing up together and working together for over 40 years, life can never be the same. I would find Mom and Dad at the cemetery, something no parent ever wants to deal with. But now they're together, all of them, and this gives Daryl, Dean, and I peace. Mom passed away August 30th, 2019, due to a stroke. And Dad passed away November 15th, 2020, due to lung and heart complications. They were only 14 months apart. It all started in the 1950s when John Kohut met Irene Rounds. Neither of them had a great childhood. Dad's dad passed away when he was 11, and Dad had to quit school in grade 7 to help his mom make money to feed himself and his 3 brothers. Grandma didn't have a strong, stable family home either, although she did finish high school because of sheer determination. They decided to get married as neither of them had anything, so they thought they might as well become one and make a better life than where they came from. Dad and Mom were married on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1959. Then they had 4 kids. Junior was born in 1960, I was born in 61, Daryl 63, and Dean in 1966. Talk about building a family in short order. 6 of us lived in a little house about 600 square feet with an outhouse. Yes, this is true. We hated Halloween because every year someone would knock it over and we'd have to stand it back up and then clean it. Yuck. Growing up, we didn't have much. However, we didn't know any different because everyone around us was the same, so it was good. Looking back on it, it's incredible to see the way we all live today because Mom and Dad truly didn't have a great start.
Mom and Dad loved the town of Drumheller. They were born here and always said they would die here, and that's what they just did. Dad was a loyal and committed Rotarian, and Mom was always his strongest supporter. They were involved in numerous projects around the valley. Dad would get frustrated when people would complain about the town because he would say, well, if you don't like it here, then move. He said life is what you make of it. I admire this because if you knew Dad, he always spoke from the heart.
For years and years, we had Sunday dinner. Babe and the bear, John and Irene, Grandma and Grandpa. I look forward to that probably more than any meal through the week. All the time I'd get up in the morning and plan what we were going to have for supper, and I always laughed. I'd phone Grandpa and say, do you want to come for in? Sure, what time? He wouldn't even let me get the sentence out, and he would be answering definitely in the affirmative, and he'd always come over with Grandma, and we always had a good time, and they really loved to visit with our friends. We always tried to get few of our friends over, and sometimes their friends would come, and we'd always have a nice gathering on Sunday. So it's a tradition that I'll really miss, but it's memories that I'll always cherish. And so miss them already, and know everybody else that has ever known them, miss them too. So they're in heaven together now, so that's great. Bye.
I was lucky enough to spend 30 years, more or less, with my grandma and my grandpa. Without really knowing it, I was lucky enough to only have one grandma and one grandpa for the majority of my life. There's never any time split. We got to spend all our time with them. Ended up being a great gift. It's hard to really know what to say on times like this, but I think as far as it goes, it's always important and to remember what you learn from people. And I know from my grandma and my grandpa, I learned a lot. I learned a lot when I was a young boy, and I learned a lot as I grew into a man. But I think what I'll always remember more than anything, what they always taught, more so in the way they did things ever than what they said. They weren't preachy. They didn't pound their chest. They just led by example. And what I always learned from them and witnessed firsthand, and the greatest thing they ever taught me was what true love looks like. I saw that every time they were together, and even when Grandma left and Grandpa was here alone, you could still see exactly what that looked like and what that meant. And something that I'll never forget and I'll always carry forward as long as I live is the importance of family. There was never anything in the world that mattered more to my grandma or my grandpa than their family. They were always so proud and so happy around them. That was their world. The world didn't revolve around their family. Their family just simply was their world. And how lucky were we that those were our grandparents. It's been a tough stretch. It's hard to really put into words how much we miss Grandma for the last year and a bit, and how much we miss Grandpa now, and how much we're gonna miss them both for the rest of our lives. But how lucky were we that they were the two grandparents that we had.
Say a few things about Grandma and Grandpa. And some of our favorite memories or stories or things we'd like to say about them. And it's so hard. There's so many funny stories with Grandpa and sweet stories with Grandma. And, I think what really kind of hits home right now is just that link into our family past is no longer there. But we're very blessed that, Grandpa especially and Grandma took the time to make sure we knew our past and where the Kohuts came from, and knew how to raise us like our parents, right, which raised us right. So I guess just one of my favorite memories with Grandma was usually sitting around at Christmas and her always bugging for a glass of wine, and having someone join her. And when we were a little girl, I remember going down to Drum to stay at Auntie Heather's for a week or so, and she took us to the dinosaur museum and the splash park, and she'd let us just rip through all the clothes in the basement, old dress-up clothes, and spend hours in the Red Hat Society or Red Hat Club. And Grandpa, one of my favorite memories is being a little girl, and you came to Red Deer for I don't know what, and you were had asked if I wanted to come home and stay with Auntie Heather and Maddie. And I remember feeling a little bit nervous just because, I was young, and I think it was a big growly voice that always did scare me as a little girl. But I remember you opened up and you talked about your childhood and where you came from, and I can sit here and I can remember that conversation as clear as day. So all the love for both of them, and we wish that they were still here and we could be spending many Christmases in Hawaii together and then on. And love you guys.
How do I describe my mom? Honestly, there's not enough kind words in the world. She led by example of love, caring, kindness, generosity. These all describe Mom. Mom worked so hard alongside Dad while raising the four of us. She was just a loving, wonderful wife and mother, and even a committed and loyal volunteer to the community. She just loved Drumheller so much, and she just did what she could to make it a better place. If you knew my mom, you knew she had a bad stroke in the late 90s. She lost her speech, much of her memory. She had to learn how to read and write all over again. She lost the use of her right arm for a long time. Mom went through very intense therapy, and she recovered very well. They didn't think she would, but she just was that kind of person. She just didn't give up. One thing, though, after the stroke, Mom was a lot quieter. She struggled with her speech. We would play a lot of charades at times, especially when she was tired. I'd watch her while conversations were going on, and many times she'd just listen and smile. Even her voice changed a bit after the stroke. Others wouldn't notice. However, her and I'd talk about it quite a bit. She would say, "I sound different," and I'd say, "You just created a new form of the English language," and she'd laugh. But Mom didn't let that stroke set her back. She was told that she may never drive again. Well, she proved them wrong, didn't she? In the end, you'd see Mom driving around town in her striped up little Beetle that she loved so much. Mom was just an honest, kind, and loving person, and I miss her so much.
Mom had taught us many lessons as well, and probably one of her biggest lessons that she taught us was the compassion for people, compassion for other people's feelings, and I truly believe that later in life, Mom's sole goal in life was to make somebody else's day better, and I think she did that marvelously. And she would always, if she asked you how you were doing, she wasn't asking it just to be kind or just in passing. She really wanted to know how you were doing. And if she could help in any way, she was more than willing to offer that help to you to try and get you through the situation you may have been in.
Hello, this tribute was written to honor Irene Kohut. I'm her friend, Heather Dick. Irene and I met as Beta Sigma Phi sisters over 30 years ago. Our friendship grew stronger and closer over the years. She would never phone ahead, but just drop by, and with a twinkle in her eye, she would convince me to join her on some of her mischievous and spontaneous pranks. Often, when we were neighbors, she would come visit, and while sipping a glass of wine, her and my husband Danny would reminisce about the good old days growing up in Drumheller. They would tell stories, talk about where every house was, every path, sometimes even a certain tree. I'm sure Irene really enjoyed these visits as she would smile and laugh the whole time. Irene and I went on several road trips together. We shopped in Stettler and once even attended a high tea in High River. We got all dressed up and even wore fascinators. We had so much fun. As friends, we confided in each other, sharing good times and not so good times. I think of Irene often and remember our time together. I will cherish our friendship. Hello. This tribute is submitted for Irene Kohut by her Beta Sigma Phi sisters, Sonia Channel, Heather Dick, Marie Fairhead, Susan Keddy, Marie Kaustrup, Bonnie Peterson, Maxine Popovich, and Monica Sleep. Irene joined the Sisterhood of Beta Sigma Phi in 1975. She was a loyal and committed member who lived her life devoted to the good, the true, and the beautiful. She will be remembered most for what a warm-hearted person she was. Honesty, generosity, thoughtfulness, and kindness guided and determined her daily actions. Irene supported all her sisters and was tolerant and respectful of everyone's distinct characteristics, which in turn earned her everyone's respect. She loved to laugh and surprise her friends with her unique random acts of kindness. Her friendship meant so much to us. She has left us with so many delightful and pleasant memories we will all treasure. The torch of our sisterhood lighted her way on earth, but she hath now no need for sun or moon. But we have a need to keep forever bright within our hearts the memory of her living presence. She was, she is, our sister.
I came back home to Drumheller, and finding my niche was a challenge. And then Irene and John moved across the street from Mum, where we were staying till our house was built. Renewing old friendships was wonderful, but making new ones was harder than I thought it would be. Irene introduced me to sorority, and this became my niche. We were able to do so many good things and had so much fun doing them. Pages of pictures and closets full of memories. In the up and down scales of life, we exchanged clothes with the ups and downs of things not fitting. We went to garage sales and borrowed coins from each other when we overspent. Simple things made her happy, and she loved to share. Irene knew most everyone in town. She would reacquaint me with people I hadn't seen since we were kids and introduce me to new ones. I treasure the times getting to know and love John and their family. Their success and gratitude for that success increased their generosity to the whole town. I miss her giggle. Her sparkle gave me joy. Her strength through adversity gave me strength. She was a conqueror. She was my sister, my neighbor, and I miss her presence in my life. But most of all, I am so grateful to have had her as a dear friend. Thank you.
I'm Carol, Irene's sister. Wanted to share a memory with everyone, and one of our memories was a trip we took to wine country in California. We had a lot of fun, of course, lots of giggles, and needless to say, after 5 wineries, that's all we did for about 5 hours. It was one of the best trips we've taken with Irene and John, and on a sad note, it's one of the last times they came south. I'm not sure how many years, but we made it worth their while, and they will remain in our hearts forever.
If I could say anything about Dad, as we all knew him as the Bear, is he taught us dedication, hard work, and commitment to what we were doing could help us move mountains and get to where we want to be. He seemed to have this freight shed that was located in several places around town, and we knew that if we went there to work, we could actually accomplish goals and move ourselves ahead as well. He wasn't always easy to work for, but definitely he taught us the right path. It's ironic, in his younger days in life, he was a very hard-nosed guy, but as you got to know him in his later years, he was probably one of the kindest men. And as everybody has said, his heart was larger than he was, and he was willing to give it to you or give you the shirt off his back anytime that somebody else required it.
The Bear, a dear and most trustworthy friend. Just one of the characteristics I admired about the Bear was his determination. When he set his mind on something, he wouldn't be satisfied until there were results. A couple of stories about the bear's determination evolve around the indoor swimming pool. Now, once the pool was constructed, he told anyone who would listen and anyone who wouldn't listen, this community had to have an indoor water slide. He never relented. Then the announcement, yes, a water slide would be constructed. I recall saying to the bear, "We're going to get the water slide, so after all of this, you must be the first one to come down that slide." Now, most of us didn't think he'd take up the challenge, but fast forward. The slide was built and ready. The first person who came charging down the slide was, you guessed it, the bear. That's when I decided we needed to produce a button that would read something like, "I survived Kohut's water slide." Another humorous swimming pool incident emanated with a rotary radio auction. The bear was an auctioneer at this event. A listener called in and pledged, I think it was $400 cash, if John would jump off the high diving board. Determination. He accepted the challenge, and so he said, "I'll be there if you make the arrangements." Again, we wondered if he'd really do it. We gained entry to the pool one evening. No lifeguard. Up the ladder climbs the bear. Without hesitation, he walked to the edge of the board and cannonballed into the water. Now here is a big boy. He either went to the bottom or close to it. Up he popped and gracefully swam over to the edge. Then he laughed and said, "I have no idea how to swim." Talk about determination.
Our dad has been described as a character larger than life. His nickname was the Bear, and growing up, there was definitely moments when we saw the grizzly bear. However, more often, and especially as he got older, he was a big cuddly bear. When Dad spoke about us kids and his grandkids, 99% of the time, he would end up in tears. Nothing made him happier when any of the grandkids stopped by to visit. I always got a play-by-play of the conversation, and his eyes were so happy and bright.
Dad loved his trike. This past summer, he put over 6,000 kilometers on it. Not bad for someone who's 81 years old. One night he went to Rockyford, his usual Wednesday ride, and he always brought Kelly chicken wings home. He knew he drove way too fast because the chicken wings were always still hot. Anyways, one of those nights he said, "Just so you know, I fell off my trike twice." I said, "What?" He says, "Well, these stupid pants would get caught and I'd fall back." He said, "The only reason I'm telling you is just in case one of the guys says something to you." After I realized he was okay, I started to laugh and said, "Wow, how times have changed. He's worried about getting into trouble with me." I just want to thank you all who took him on those rides. He was always so honored that you young guys would let him ride with him. He truly looked forward to those rides. We also are going to miss watching him on that trike. He would pull his bike up into the alley every summer, park the bike, place himself at the head of the table, and he'd just sit there and enjoy the backyard and wait till Kelly brought him out supper. He loved spending time with us in our backyard. We just spent time sharing stories, and he just truly was at peace back there, and summer's just never going to be the same for us.
I went to high school with Irene, and when they moved to the house across the street from my mom, I got to know John as well. Bonnie and I had kept in touch with Drumheller all our years in Calgary. When we moved back in 1996, we had friends we knew, but there was a purpose missing. John persevered until he got me to join Rotary. The Rotary family became important, and the Bear did too. When we worked on a project, we knew that a box of donuts, a jug of coffee, or a case of beer would show up and then be shared but after the work was done. John shared his success with everyone, his growl covered by a generous soul. He was a good neighbor and a good friend. Drumheller has benefited and will continue to benefit from John and his family's generosity for years to come.
In 1960, Dad started a company called JF Transport with a friend. However, after 6 months, they went broke. In 1962, Dad purchased a truck again and started Big Country Transport. They went broke again. Unfortunately, this time, Mom and Dad were $10,000 in debt. You may ask why they were willing to risk it all 3 times to start a company. Why was he determined to keep trying at an industry that clearly did not seem to be going his way? Well, the intrinsic drive to share his passion for trucking was burning strong. No matter what obstacles came across his path, he had a lifetime goal set and a point to prove. They wanted to be the carrier that cares. Did I tell you there were 13 trucking companies in Drumheller when they started? Our parents were very persistent and would never give up. Let's let them tell us in their own words.
We started with one little truck. My wife and I had $1,500, so I started this Highway 9 Express. Our first trip was made long weekend in 1969, and that was our first load of freight. We were hauling laundry from the hotels into Calgary to Ideal Laundry. Our main goal in business was to provide a service that people could depend on.
We've always said, it's been kind of a fun thing between us, we've always said, whatever is most important to you is just as important as Mrs. Jones's Tupperware.
Being a truck driver at heart, I'm very uneducated, actually. I left school at a very young age. I guess I had something to prove, and I put a lot of determination, and I was prepared to put a lot of effort into it.
We've had a lot of fights, though. I mean, I would be very silly to say we haven't had fights or disagreements. But the children they've really helped us. It's been a big factor.
They've worked in the warehouse at nights. They've driven truck. They've washed trucks. They swept trailers. They know every part of the business, and they've done every part of it.
I remember Daryl, the boy who's now a mechanic.
Mom and Dad initially started the same-day service from Calgary to Drumheller in 1969. One truck, and they were offered a service that nobody in at that time offered. There was 13 other carriers in Drumheller. They were all laughing at him that he took his little 2-ton truck and was going to offer a same-day service from Calgary. And I remember when we were little kids, and Mom and Dad lived just down the block here, and when they first started up, and the yard was full of beer kegs. Like literally, Dad got the beer contract for ABA, and the yard was full of beer kegs, and we'd made huts out of these beer kegs, you know.
That was the only place to store them.
That was the only place to store them, but that's how you're brought up. And I mean, we had fun, and so I mean, the truck was, I guess trucking's always been in our blood, and I knew when I was 15, 16 years old that that's what I was going to be. I was going to be involved in this industry.
You know, it was a big honor, very big honor. We have the plaque very proudly in our office, and it was the local business people in town that recognized us and submitted our name, but it made us, you know, it really made you feel appreciated by the business community. The first trailer that we painted was Hannah, and then it just grew from Hannah to, we painted one for Drumheller, then Oyen. We now have trailers for Stettler, Three Hills, Coronation. We try and play our part in all the communities and be involved.
And everyone seems to have their favorites too. I mean, some people, they figure the Stettler one is the greatest one with the train on it. Where else can you put a billboard anywhere you want in Alberta?
What it is the kids get to go. We arrange 20 kids for the month of May every year. In the month of May, we have a kid a day. We show them the different types of trucks and the kind of the freight we handle, and they always get a pretty good kick out of the dispatch office. All the phones ringing off the hooks. Once they get back from Calgary, we give them a little certificate, and they're the future pro of the day.
We have picked up dinosaur bones out of some of the valleys around Drumheller and loaded onto our trucks with helicopters. We have some pictures. We were very, very involved in moving that display right from Drumheller here up to Edmonton. We've hauled the first dinosaur that was constructed in Calgary into Drumheller on an air ride flat deck trailer and an air ride truck. We've built a reputation that any of our customers that call us now know that, it's going to get the utmost attention and it's going to be followed through.
He had nothing given to him. And I think he wants that from his employees too. He wants hard work and honesty. And that's one thing that we've never, and that's one thing I've learned, is that we've never ever done, is we've never fired a person for being honest. That's been a lot of what he's taught us.
Yeah, I was born right here in Drumheller. I've been in Drumheller all my life. Of course, I'm partial to the area that we service because I treat the whole area that we service as home. And it's the central part of Alberta. And Alberta is a very successful province as far as I'm concerned. I'm proud to be part of Drumheller and Stettler and Alberta. Yeah, it's a name that stuck with me for a lot of years. And whenever you got anything to do with Highway 9, you mention the bear, they know exactly who you're talking about.
But we dreamt on it. Like, we went broke twice.
We had to pay back.
We were in the whole $10,000 when I went to work for McLean. And, of course, everybody's garnishing you and stuff like that, eh? And so I told McLean, well, when I was going back to the rig, I told him why I was going back to the rig, because moving from rig to rig, they have a hard time catching up to you. And he said, do you really want to pay those bills off? And I said, yeah. I said, because someday I might want to start again. So anyhow, he said, you're serious? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, jump my car. So we went over to Sandercock's office.
You guys wouldn't know.
Sandercock and Shoemaker.
Big lawyer.
Yeah. They were the main lawyers. Well, there was Ross in town too at the time. But Sandercock was McLean's lawyer. So he said, Sandercock said to me, I was kind of renegade, eh?
No.
But anyhow, Sandercock said to me, you sure you want to pay these off? And I said, yep. He said, well, you go home tonight. You and your wife sit down, make a list of every bill you owe. And you come back tomorrow with 2 pay slips, and we'll work something out. So I brought 2 pay slips back, and the list of bills.
Which wasn't.
And he said, here's what we'll do. And I worked a lot of overtime, and he didn't touch my overtime, he just touched my regular wages. He said, we'll take, I forget what percentage it was, of my wages and accumulate them. And he sent every creditor a letter that this is what he was doing. He was going to accumulate the money and every once in a while distribute some between all of them. And they all got off my back. And I think it took us about 5 years to
We had a real good sheriff at the time.
to pay it off.
His name was Joe.
It turned successful when the kids got involved.
Really great.
When they got involved, everybody started, they had their expertise in different areas, and they started taking hold of things, and it turned around. It was a struggle.
just too big for one guy at that point, isn't it?
Well, you know, the thing is, when the kids started getting involved, we weren't that big, but still, you know, I was trying to drive and I was trying to manage.
Yeah, you can't do it all.
We were struggling and struggling and struggling, and it was getting tougher and tougher. And finally, one day, I knew these two managers in these two big companies in Calgary, Freightways and Motorways. And so I phoned them up to see if I could talk to them. I went and had one appointment in the morning and one in the afternoon. And what it boiled down to be is he said, "You little bastards." That's exactly what he said. He said, "Well, do you realize you're truckers, not bankers?" He said, "Then you'll be successful."
One thing Mom and Dad continually reminded us of is never forget our roots. Never forget where you came from, because you'll always be grateful if you remember those things. And we all have to this day. And I think the really important thing that people need to understand is how grateful Mom and Dad were for the people that surrounded them. The people that were there in the beginning, like John Lucy, Bob Ball, Dave Costco, Brian Birch. Even Brian is there to this day. Mom and Dad talked always about how wonderful it was to have such wonderful people involved in the business and being there, and the great team that we had. And even though as us kids got involved, they never ever forgot about those who helped them get started. And to this day, there's so many wonderful people that are at Highway 9 that means so much to Mom and Dad. And I just want you all to know that they spoke of you often, and they were grateful for everything that you've done for the company. And just thanks. There's just not enough words to say thank you. Today, many families have a career, benefits, a roof over their head, all because one man would not give up on his dream and one woman stood beside her man.
Highway 9 Express. Well, Highway 9 Express truly was a family business. I mean, Mom and Dad started out basically with nothing. Dad had received an inheritance, put a little extra money towards that, and ventured out on this with a dream and a commitment. And what he had realized in his earlier ventures is to not continue to doing the same as every other competitor had done. As they were going down the road to the left, he would actually look down the other road and go to the right. Obviously, it succeeded, and he was able to provide the community with a service that they'd never seen before. With that, the growth just came naturally, and as we grew up and graduated and moved out of school and into the working world, we were all welcomed into whatever facets of the business we wanted to work into. And Dad provided opportunities, and the company provided opportunities for all of us to be able to expand our knowledge and move ahead with Highway 9 as well. As we all know, Highway 9 had the motto, "The carrier that cares," and it truly was words that we lived by. I mean, whether it was for our team members, all the staff members were treated more like family than they were just employees. Whether it was our communities, we always supported our communities in service clubs, fundraisers, anything we could do to help the communities, and also whatever we could do to make our customers' businesses run better. We would offer that service. We would go into that market and whatever it took to actually help our customers move their business ahead. Of course, would benefit us as well. We truly were the carrier that cares, and it's great words to have come from and live by.
Hello, my name is Ken Chenor. I started my parts career in Drumheller in 1971. I soon learned that your freight carrier was one of the biggest factors in a successful parts business. The freight carrier in my first parts job was Highway 9 Express, run by John and Irene Kohut. They were reliable, honest, and hardworking. My career in parts in Drumheller ended 47 years after it began. In all those years, my carrier of choice was always Highway 9. The Kohut family was always actively involved in the communities they served. They actively promoted those communities, as proved by the beautiful and visible trailers spotted throughout the province. It has always made me proud to see these trailers and point out they started in Drumheller. So though I am very sad at the passing of both John and Irene, I know they left an indelible mark on our community. Their unwavering efforts and generosity towards the community of Drumheller have been an example left to be admired for many generations to come. Thank you for this opportunity to share a bit of my history with John and Irene.
You taught us to love, you taught us to laugh, you looked after us with your whole heart. There was no such thing as a half. You taught us to be tough, taught us to be strong. You showed us what was right and were patient when we were wrong. You handled the ups and the downs with beauty and grace. You taught us to take life in stride with a smile on our face. There are no words we can say to describe how much we will miss you, but we will keep going in your honor because that's what you would want us to do. But just as you were there at our beginning, we know you will be waiting at our end. So for now, we say goodbye, Grandma and Grandpa. We love you until we see you again.
My grandparents were a second parent from day one. We would spend endless hours together. I would go over for sleepovers all the time. One of my favorite things to do would be organizing days. My grandma and I would clean out all the cupboards, get rid of all the junk because there was so much junk that accumulated from last week when we did it. We loved to clean out clothes. She, I think, just bought more clothes just so I could clean them out with her. Grandpa and I, we sure grew close over the last few years. Our weekly lunch dates, getting groceries, talking about little Poe, catching up when all that's going on. I am just so grateful for the endless time I got to spend with them. And I believe that it was a reason that I lived at home in my final university, that I got to move back home in my third year of law school. Those days and endless hours growing up and as I got older, to be with my grandparents meant the world to me. And I can just say I'm going to continue to do everything I can to make them proud and be the best granddaughter I can and be the best person I can. Because they taught me a lot of valuable lessons, and they're still teaching me lessons even to this day. So I love you, Grandma and Grandpa, and I know you're with me every day.
I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful for being able to have both Grandma and Grandpa in my life and having their love and support and always kind of guiding me. It's really sad that, I'll never be able to see them again, but I know Grandma is quite busy right now bringing my life partner into my life, so she no longer has to worry about whether I have a girlfriend or not, and that is, I know, keeping her quite happy. And now I have Grandpa and the big bear protecting over me and scaring off everyone that, might come my way with not the best intentions. So together, I'm really glad that they're both with me, and I know that there's been a shift in that Grandpa now has had to take a lot of orders from Grandma, and she's been really bossing him around right now, getting him in line and making sure that he's doing things. So it's kind of good to see that power dynamic shift. But the one thing I'll always remember and look back on is when we used to go to the Flames games with them and sit in I think it was about 106, 105, right in the corner there. And this would have been back in the good old Young Guns days where they just never could quite get that rebuild going, and their coach was Pierre Paget. And I remember after they announced the starting lineup, they announced the coach, and Grandpa loudly with his big bear voice went, boo, and the entire place was silent. And I don't know if his booing was louder or Grandma's laughter was louder, but it was like the entire building looked down at us, and I remember I couldn't stop laughing, and I'll always remember that. I really don't think Pierre Paget appreciated it too much, and I'm pretty sure he got fired shortly thereafter. So yeah, that could have been the cause for that. But again, I'm very grateful for everything that you both provided me with and everything that you guys did for me, and all the love and support. And I'm so grateful for continuing to have your guys' love and support and guidance each and every day. I know I'm not the easiest person to guide sometimes with my stubbornness, but I do appreciate it. I love you guys.
I just feel lucky to have grown up in a family where family does come first, in a family that cares for each other, in a family that strives to work hard and make things better for people. Miss Grandma and Grandpa every day, and I'm always thinking of them.
If you knew our parents well, you know how important their vehicles were to them. Mom drove a convertible for approximately 50 years of her life. We will always cherish the memories of her driving around in those. And Dad, of course, he loved his trucks, his trikes, and his rebuilt vehicles by Daryl. In the end, they traveled to their resting place in one of their favorite vehicles, and for that we will always cherish. Death leaves a heartache no one can heal, and love leaves a memory that no one can still. We love you and miss you so much, Mom and Dad and Junior. Thank you all for taking the time and sharing with us, and we hope that you really understand the life that John and Irene Kohut lived. Take care.
So many nights I'd sit by my window, waiting for someone to sing me his song. So many dreams I kept deep inside me, alone in the dark, but now